There are characters in fiction who are simply good, and there are characters who are simply evil. And then there is Severus Snape, a man who was cruel and kind, brilliant and broken, a traitor and the most loyal soul in the entire wizarding world, all at once. But before the dark robes, before the cold stare across the Great Hall, before the whispered curses and the dungeons full of simmering cauldrons, there was a boy nobody wanted, a boy who fell in love with the wrong person, made the wrong choices, and spent the rest of his life paying for them. This is where it all began. This is the origin of Severus Snape, the man who loved too much. To really get Severus Snape, you have to see the world that made him. And honestly, it wasn't a world where love lived. Way before Hogwarts, before the Dark Lord, before the fear and the shadows, there was Eileen Prince. She was born in 1930 into an ancient pureblood house obsessed with legacy and status. On the surface, she had it all. A famous name, magic in her veins, and a spot in Slytherin House. But being part of a prestige family doesn't mean being happy. The princes wanted a male heir, and Eileen grew up feeling like a ghost in her own home. She was quiet, withdrawn, and incredibly gifted at magic, but she never fit in. While other kids were making friends, Eileen was hiding in the library obsessing over books and spells. The one thing she actually loved? Gobstones. It's a weird game, but she was a genius at it, even becoming the captain of the Hogwarts team. But when school finished, so did the only place she ever felt important. She vanished from the wizarding world and ended up in the industrial Midlands. That's where she met Tobias Snape, a muggle working in a factory. And for the first time, someone was actually kind to her. She fell in love. They got married. But life isn't a fairy tale. Her family disowned her. She was cut off. And the couple moved to Spinner's End, a decaying, miserable town filled with smoke, broken lights, and bitterness. It was a nightmare. Tobias worked his life away for nothing. Eileen was trapped in a muggle world she didn't understand. The love died, replaced by screaming matches and cold silence. And then, Eileen got pregnant. Tobias didn't want a kid, but Eileen kept him anyway, hoping he might be the one good thing left in her life. And so, on January 9th, 1960, Severus Snape was born, long before he became the mysterious potions master of Hogwarts. Snape was just a lonely boy growing up in a place called Spinner's End. And honestly, his childhood was miserable. His father, Tobias Snape, was a muggle. His mother, Eileen Prince, was a witch. And the house was filled with screaming, fighting, and bitterness. Imagine being a child trapped in a home where nobody seems happy you exist. That was Severus. The poverty, the neglect, the constant arguments. It shaped him. By the time he was 9 years old, Snape had already become quiet, withdrawn, and obsessed with magic. Because magic was escape. Magic meant power, control, a way out. And then one day, everything changed because Severus noticed a girl. A red-haired girl named Lily Evans, before Hogwarts, before Voldemort, before the war. There was Lily. Snape would secretly watch her from a distance, fascinated by the accidental magic she performed without realizing it. And eventually, he approached her. Not smoothly, not confidently, but awkwardly, like a boy who had never truly had a friend before. And somehow, it worked. The two became inseparable. For the first time in his life, Severus Snape felt seen, accepted, important. But there was already something fragile beneath the surface. Because while Lily grew up surrounded by warmth and love, Severus grew up surrounded by anger, neglect, and loneliness. And even though being with Lily made him happier than he had ever been, there was still a part of him that feared losing the only good thing in his life, a fear that would slowly shape the man he would eventually become. In 1971, they boarded the Hogwarts Express together, and that train ride changed everything, because inside that compartment sat two boys, James Potter and Sirius Black. The rivalry was instant. James was confident, popular, loved, everything Snape wasn't. And when Lily was sorted into Gryffindor while Snape entered Slytherin, it felt like the universe itself was pulling them apart. At Hogwarts, Snape became brilliant, not just smart, genius-level brilliant, especially in potions and dark magic. He rewrote potion instructions, created his own spells, invented curses powerful enough to terrify experienced wizards. But while the Half-Blood Prince grew more talented, he also grew more bitter, and the Marauders made that worse. James Potter and his friends constantly humiliated him, mocked his appearance, bullied him publicly, called him Snivelous. And slowly, Snape's anger started becoming hatred. Then came the moment that destroyed everything. 5th year, by the Black Lake, in front of a crowd of students. James publicly humiliated Snape using one of Snape's own spells. He lifted him upside down, exposed him, made him a laughingstock, and standing there watching was Lily, desperate to defend him. Yet, even she almost smiled. Snape, consumed by rage and embarrassment, looked directly at the one person who cared for him, whom he loved, and called her a mudblood. Silence. The second that word left his mouth, their friendship died, and Snape knew it immediately. He begged for forgiveness afterward, but it was too late, because Lily realized something terrifying. Severus wasn't just angry anymore. He was becoming someone else, something else. After losing Lily, Snape drifted deeper into darkness. He surrounded himself with future Death Eaters, students obsessed with blood purity and Voldemort's rise. And eventually, Snape joined them. He became one of Lord Voldemort's followers. But here's the tragedy. Even after everything, he never stopped loving Lily. Not for 1 second. And then came the moment that doomed them all. At the Hog's Head Inn, Snape overheard part of a prophecy about a child destined to destroy Voldemort. Snape immediately reported it to the Dark Lord, but Voldemort chose to target one specific family: the Potters, James, Lily, and their baby son, Harry. And suddenly Snape realized what he had done. He had signed Lily's death warrant. This is where Severus Snape truly changes. Not because he becomes good, but because love finally becomes stronger than hatred. Snape begged Voldemort to spare Lily, but deep down, he knew Voldemort couldn't be trusted. So, in desperation, he went to Albus Dumbledore, and Dumbledore was disgusted, because Snape only cared about saving Lily, not James, not Harry, just Lily. But eventually Snape agreed to protect all of them. In exchange, he would become Dumbledore's spy, a double agent. And from that moment onward, Severus Snape began living the most dangerous life imaginable, because if Voldemort discovered the truth, Snape would die. Then came Halloween night. Voldemort entered the Potter's home. James Potter died trying to protect his family. Lily refused to step aside, and Voldemort killed her too. But her sacrifice saved Harry, and when Snape discovered Lily was dead, he shattered. The woman he loved, gone. And it was partly his fault. That guilt would destroy him for the rest of his life. But Dumbledore gave him one final mission: protect Harry Potter, the son of the man he hated, and the woman he loved. This is what makes Snape so fascinating. Every time he looked at Harry, he saw James Potter, the bully who tormented him for years. But every time Harry looked back, Snape saw Lily's eyes, and that completely destroyed him inside. That's why Snape is so complicated. He protected Harry constantly, but he could barely stand being around him. He saved Harry during Quidditch, watched over him for years, risked his cover repeatedly, and Harry never knew, neither did we. Because from the outside, Snape looked evil, which made the final twist even more devastating. Then came the moment we never recovered from. On the Astronomy Tower, Snape killed Dumbledore, or at least, that's what the entire wizarding world believed. Harry watched in horror. The Order lost trust in him, and overnight, Snape became the most hated man in Hogwarts. But the truth was far more tragic. Months earlier, Albus Dumbledore had destroyed one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, the cursed ring once belonging to the Gaunt family. The curse nearly killed him instantly, and it was Snape who managed to contain the dark magic, trapping it within Dumbledore's hand, using his extraordinary knowledge of curses and potions. But even Snape couldn't stop it forever. He told Dumbledore the curse would continue spreading. At best, he had 1 year left to live. That changed everything, because now Dumbledore knew his death was inevitable. And with Voldemort already manipulating Draco Malfoy into becoming a killer, Dumbledore made a decision that would haunt Snape forever. When the time came, Snape would be the one to kill him, not only to spare Draco's soul from murder, but also to ensure Voldemort never truly understood the loyalty of the Elder Wand. So, once again, Snape sacrificed his own reputation for a greater purpose. He became the villain in everyone's story to protect them. And finally, came the moment that changed everything. Inside the Shrieking Shack, Voldemort turned on Snape. Why? Because he believed killing Snape would make him master of the Elder Wand. Nagini attacked, Snape collapsed, dying. And as Harry approached him, Snape gave him his memories. What Harry saw next completely rewrote the entire story. He saw that years earlier, Albus Dumbledore had entrusted Snape with a devastating secret. Harry himself had to die. A fragment of Voldemort's soul had attached itself to Harry the night his parents were murdered, and as long as that piece survived, Voldemort could never truly be defeated. Dumbledore had also told Snape something else, that the moment Voldemort began keeping Nagini constantly beside him, Snape would know the end was near, because Nagini too was a Horcrux, and that would be the moment Harry finally needed to learn the truth. For years, Snape carried that unbearable burden alone. Every lie, every risk, every sacrifice, all while protecting a boy he secretly knew was being led toward death. And through all of it, he never stopped loving Lily Evans. Every terrible thing he endured was for her. Even his Patronus, a silver doe, matched Lily's. And suddenly Harry understood. Severus Snape was never the villain. He was one of the bravest men who ever lived. In the end, Severus Snape died the same way he lived, alone, misunderstood, and carrying pain nobody truly saw. He wasn't perfect, far from it. He was bitter, cruel, vindictive, but he was also unbelievably courageous, because for nearly 2 decades, he walked between 2 of the most dangerous men in the wizarding world, knowing one mistake would kill him, all while protecting the son of his worst enemy, because he loved Harry's mother. And maybe that's why Snape remains one of the greatest characters ever written. Not because he was good, but because he was human, and after all this time, his story still hurts. Always.